Hi, this is Pat Moorhead. We are back for another episode of the Hot Desk Podcast. I'm here with Melody Brue, Vice President and Principal Analyst for People Technology and CRM. Mel, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy Friday. Good
Yeah,
to see
happy
you.
Friday. I'm this is the first week that since January 1st that I've not been traveling, and it's been really good. I mean, working out every day, eating
Nice.
well. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, you get a lot done on the road, and I appreciate that, and it's part of our jobs. But you know, being home is nice too.
Yeah. It feels like this week has been so busy because I think people kind of got back after taking a little bit of time off at the beginning of January. Things kind of started to settle in the second week, and then last week and this week really got busy. Like I've had tons of briefings, lots of things are being announced. Of course, there's all the earnings, which saw you on CNBC last night. That was good.
Yeah, thanks for the support.
Fun
Thank you.
to
By the
fun
way,
to
I'm glad you saw that one and not some of the other ones that I've been horrible on. I felt like that one went very well.
I thought it went really well too. But yeah, since the last time we talked, I did the Zoom Transformation Summit, Work Transformation Summit. Had an interesting conversation on customer experience and data privacy in contact centers. I had a really interesting experience evaluating grants for Box.org. We'll talk about Box a little later. So that was a fun thing. And yeah, things have been busy and they're about to get busier. Like you, I'll be traveling soon, and I think I'll actually see you at a couple events.
I know it's going to be wild. Um, yeah, we have to go to an event to actually see each other. So I get
I
that.
know.
So
Well, I do
yeah,
feel like I start my Fridays with you because I always have this is like my setup. I've got my computer, my coffee, and then on my phone I've got the 6.5 playing. And so I'm listening to you and Daniel riff on all the things while I'm working and having my coffee. And it's like that's how I start my Friday. It's a good way to start the day.
no, I appreciate that. You're one of our biggest fans. No,
I don't know if you
just
saw
kidding.
me raise my hand today. And
I did. I put, in fact, I put you up on the screen. I don't know if you, right at the very end, I flashed that. So I'm waiting for the fans to show up here. What the heck's going on? We'll get that. We're only episode 15.
15. Yeah.
So, and on our podcast with Daniel in the 6.5, we're at 201. So we'll get there. But hey, if it's the first time you're on here, we're talking about the new normal, the next new normal in tools, people tools out there. And that's not only productivity tools, that's collaboration, contact center. Gosh, it's productivity. It's even sometimes we talk devices on here. It's HRM, HCM, and we are now adding CRM. We're going to have to find a way to how we put the people tools and the marketing tools together. But congratulations, Mel, as running our marketing tools practice. And that could be CX, it could be CRM, all the things we try to pack in here.
Yep. Lots to add in.
Totally. So we've got a good show for you right now. We have Box making an acquisition of Crooze. It's funny, I want to spell it differently, but it's Crooze. Okay. Ceridian is acquiring eloomi. We've got Salesforce Einstein 1 in Marketing Cloud. We're going to pull that apart. And then my favorite, which I should just copy for every show, is Hot or Not. Kyte Baby RTO. I did not read ahead. I have no idea
Oh, this is a good
what
one.
this is. And I cannot wait. So let's dive in here.
Yeah, so Crooze. That's funny. Both acquisitions that we're talking about today have very weird spellings of the name of the company that they acquired. Crooze, Crooze. Box has acquired Crooze as part of their content cloud. So Crooze is a longtime partner of Box, and basically they're just integrating a lot of their productivity, security, and kind of what they call mission critical use cases, controlled documents, digital assets, enterprise libraries into the Box content cloud, and also incorporating Box AI into that to kind of automatically extract metadata from the content. So really, they're addressing a lot of the things that are related to the big like metadata creation at scale, the big uploads. A lot of this stuff, I think that when I look at this, it's something that Box could either build or buy. It's a lot of capabilities that Box has already, a lot of things that they do really well already when you're talking about kind of these, the security, the really kind of critical document management at an enterprise scale. Box does this, and I think where they're taking this acquisition, it's both the technology and the people. So I think it's a buy versus build. They're already a partner of Box's, and I think it's a smart decision because it just expands them from their customer base, their employee base, and they don't have to rebuild or build something from scratch that's going to compete with one of their vendors. They just fold it into what they're already doing, and they just have to push it into the Content Cloud. It's not quite yet native into Content Cloud, but it will be.
Yeah, it's interesting when I looked at this and, managing contracts, managing digital assets, and managing document libraries. You can do all of these with current Box
Yes.
today. But what I think they have going here is that they're optimized for, maybe even to replace an Adobe when it comes to document libraries or digital assets.
Mhm.
I've received a lot of contracts over Box to sign, and they recently added a sign capability. So I think they probably made the assessment that said, we can improve DAM contracts and document libraries,
Yeah.
or we can buy this company with all of their customers across it. I don't think they talked about how many employees or the size of the acquisition. So that by default says it was a small one because
Mhm.
Box is a public company, and up to a certain size, they would need to disclose that.
Disclose that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Crooze is private equity owned. One of the things that they do have is a no-code business process application builder. I think a lot of the things that they've talked about is a lot of these metadata tools. So maybe that's really where they add a lot of value. But like you said, it's a lot of the stuff that Box already does. So I think they're building on this. They're getting a lot of kind of that content support with what Crooze already has with their products. And they're going to continue to support the Crooze products and services on Box. And I don't think not much will change for those customers. So I think we'll see how when they integrate AI into it and how those tools will become easier for users. But like you said, they do have like the Box Sign, automatic workflow with Box Relay. There's a lot of the tools that Box has already, and it just kind of helps to manage those kind of bigger use cases with contracts and digital assets and document libraries.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I went on LinkedIn and searched on it. It says they have between 2 and 10 employees. So
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot of airtime for this. And maybe it was an acqui-hire.
I think
Right?
that's probably the case, and they do have some customers. So I think I look at it similar to RingCentral's acquisition of Hopin Events. It's something they could have built, but rather than take the time and distract from their core business, then it's a capability that they know that they needed. And so they bought Hopin Events. It's now RingCentral Events. They brought along the team with them. You don't want to buy a platform without the team. I mean, you can do it, but you know that, Pat, you've worked on platforms before. You've got people writing different code. You've got people using different methodologies, and then you've just got a mess. So I think that's probably what we're looking at here.
Yeah, just one final thing. Here we are, like going 5 minutes on this very tiny acquisition. Is that Crooze was a partner of Box. In fact, their contract management, digital asset management, and metadata tools are all built on Box. So, wow, okay, buying a partner. Yes, here we go. Let's go into what I think is a much larger acquisition, and that is Ceridian to acquire eloomi. And maybe just start off, like, what does Ceridian do and why are they relevant? Let's start off there for people who might not be familiar.
Ceridian is a human capital management HCM company, and they started out with like tax and payroll, and now they really do everything in what I call people tech. And that is from, HR, tax, payroll, to what this is now, this learning management system market, which is a massive market. It's supposed to be a almost $55 billion market by 2032. And Ceridian's Dayforce platform is really their HCM platform. And the Dayforce already has some LMS capabilities to it, but eloomi really kind of, one, they have 850 customers globally, but they really have kind of, they're expanding the Dayforce capabilities with all of like the platform with learning content, people development, skills intelligence, and then employee communication functionality. I don't know if you saw an article I wrote published earlier this week in Forbes, about the necessity to to upskill workers on AI, that there's just a very large skills gap. And I heard even on a Microsoft briefing this week that the ROI on a lot of these co-pilots is 13 months. So when you look at that, it shows, and I'm seeing a lot of data of productivity that these chatbots and co-pilots are driving. But at the same time, there's a lot of data that's showing that there's a loss of productivity. And I think you can understand this because you've tried a lot of these tools,
Yeah.
where it takes some time to ramp up on this. So these learning kind of modules within a platform like Dayforce and eloomi now allows employers to track what people have learned and match skills to requirements that are needed for a job. It also allows employees to go find the skills that they need, go seek out something within their own organization. They can say, oh, I might want to go for this next job. Here are the skills I need for that job. And I'm going to, on my own time, take these courses. I'm going to kind of drive my own, learning map. But then it also logs it. It can also log it in for compliance reasons. So if you know that you have a certain number, I'm not talking just for AI, but for certain things, you have, a certain subset of your workforce that has to be documented, certified under some sort of certification, that can be logged in there. So it really, and then of course you add AI to the operational aspect of that, not the chatbot aspect of it, but the operational aspect of on the back end of tracking those employees and making sure everybody's compliant. And I think that's really why we're going to start seeing these kind of learning management systems be so huge over the next, less than 10 years. But it really kind of modernizes that platform of learning and matching it to skills and certifications in human capital management.
Yeah, there's a few mega trends going on right now that dictate the use of better tools for HRM and HCM. I mean, the first one is this whole remote work. Like,
Yes.
how do you connect with your employees? How do you know that, not spying on them, but how do you know that they're getting work done?
Mm-hmm.
Shifting back and forth between a little bit of in-person and a lot of remote. Another one is 5 generations of workforce in the
Yes.
workforce, which you have to have tools, ambidextrous capabilities for people who don't necessarily, maybe they didn't grow up with an iPhone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's, they don't use a PC. They need to do something on a phone. I would say the third one is churn rate. The churn rate, not the unemployment rate, but the churn rate of people quitting and finding new jobs. You need to be really good during times of boom and bust to be able to hire, get people on, get them trained very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the downturns, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but as we're seeing where layoffs were announced both by SAP and IBM, how do you lay off people? How do you make sure they have the right benefits? How do you make sure that you're doing it in an honorable way, in the way that your company wants to do that? And a lot of this comes down to tools. I mean, human resources churn. and they need to have the right people. So I'm really excited about this whole HCM and HRM tools, and I don't even know what you would call them. Tools for connectivity to
Yes.
be connected with your employees. It's a really exciting area.
There's definitely that on the, connecting with employees, but when you look at it, even from a tax perspective, a Dayforce, Ceridian Dayforce has to kind of handle this too. And when you think about a remote work environment, even a small company that used to have, say, all of their employees in California, well, they may now have employees who decided to go move to Florida or Arizona or whatever. And now HR has to handle the payroll in each of those different areas. It's not a simple task. So these platforms are becoming even more important to be able to manage tax, payroll, benefits, because all of those laws are different in different states. And you have to be able to kind of automate those systems. Otherwise, people are just going to be bogged down with trying to make sure that they're staying compliant. And you can't mess with people's pay.
Messing with people's pay is not a good thing. And I had to upskill some of my talent because of some of the challenges we were having. So
Yeah.
I can tell you that's a big deal.
It's important. But yeah, this is just part of, Ceridian's Dayforce, which actually they're rebranding to Dayforce. Dayforce is their big platform, and it's really what they're known for. And so the company, Ceridian, is actually rebranding the actual company to Ceridian. But this eloomi acquisition, it's their intent to acquire it. It should be final, actually, I think the end of February. But
up to 200 employees, says LinkedIn. So
yes.
A little bit of a bigger acquisition than
Yes.
Crooze.
With 850 customers globally. So they do bring some customers with them. I imagine a lot of their customers are joint customers, but as part of this is just part of that. But I do think that this whole learning management system is a huge trend that we'll be watching for sure.
Let's dive into the world of marketing stuff, and that's AI in the Marketing Cloud by Salesforce. Maybe just start off talking about, I think everybody should know who's tuned into the show what Salesforce is, but talk about Einstein and the Marketing Cloud.
Yeah, so Einstein 1 is the AI platform, and they are integrated. So NRF, which is the big retail show, was just, what was that, last week or 2 weeks ago? Salesforce announced some new integration into their Commerce Cloud and Marketing Cloud. So Einstein 1 will be connected into kind of retail shopping data, but then also into an Einstein Copilot for shoppers. So there's some of it that's for shoppers, and then some of it that's for return insights for order management. And then there's also a referral marketing program. So it's like an AI supported likely to refer tool for brand referral programs, which are obviously becoming way more popular. But really what they're doing here is it's just leveraging all these AI models to turn behavior into like kind of that next best action, next best brand experience. And it's all across marketing, sales, and service. But what I think kind of this is news, and sometimes we report on news, but really the more important part is the analysis of it. And I watched the Salesforce CEO, Mark Benioff, in a Bloomberg interview from the World Economic Forum. And he was talking about AI and why they're infusing EinsteinAI into so much of their platform. And he said that there are three things that CEOs are looking for: more margin, increased productivity, and enhanced customer relationships. So they're using AI to do all of this. And he said, their EinsteinAI already does 1 trillion AI transactions a week.
Yeah, by the way, every time I hear about that, I'm like, okay. Benioff would never say something like that as fact if it weren't true. But it's just like,
it's a lot. So that's both predictive and generative. So I think there's a lot of the predictive that's going on in the background, and then
that's okay. AI is AI. I mean, right. It's different technologically, but in the end, customers don't care.
Yeah. So basically what he's saying is what it has to do is it has to augment their service. It has to augment marketing. It has to augment their employees and their customers. And so whatever part of the human experience Salesforce is jumping in on it. So I think well, I think we're going to continue to see this. And I think you saw this at Dreamforce, that they're just going all in on AI. He had another really interesting point, and I think maybe this is a conversation for another time, but let's just put this out there to kind of start thinking about, is he said, as regulators start to really dig into AI, and he said they've not done a good job of that yet, sort of the way that they've regulated social media, and they need to do a better job of that. But as regulators start to look at that, if we are looking truly at AI replacing jobs, and I don't actually think it's going to truly replace jobs, at least not in the next 10 years, but let's say in the future, will that be taxed? Like, is that I mean, think of it from a getting work done. Is that if a company doesn't pay a person, but they pay for AI, is that like, where's all that income tax go? Will robots be taxed?
Listen, we will find a way to tax anything that is bringing. It's how we arrived at taxing Amazon. If there was a warehouse in Texas that had nothing to do with a transaction that was being sent to California, we would find a way to tax it. And where we agreed on that was, if you have a brick and mortar in a certain state, we will tax that, whether it's the receiver or the sender.
Mhm.
So yes, we will find a way to tax this for certain.
I mean, when you think about it, the US government is probably, or many governments will probably figure out a way to do that, because if you say it's going to replace, let's even say it's 5% of the workforce, think of all of that taxable income. Where does that go? So they'll either find a way to tax the robots or the companies making. I mean, it's gonna shake out somewhere. I just thought that was a really interesting thought that I hadn't really heard anybody's perspective on yet. And
No, I liked your Forbes write-up, and I think everybody should go out there. And I know this is going to sound really heady and maybe a little bit crazy, but people need purpose in their lives. And sometimes it's family, it's faith, it's a sport, it's their jobs and what they and as humans, we have found that if you're not trying to achieve something, there's bad consequences either for mental health,
mhm,
your attitude as humans. And I don't know why God wired us like this, but I believe this is the truth, that we're just aspirers. It's
mhm,
just like we need to have a purpose in doing things to achieve a goal. And when we either become unemployed, and I'll use, I came from the Rust Belt up in Cleveland, Ohio, and those jobs, the auto manufacturing, steel, plastics, just got wiped out. They either went overseas or they went to the South, and there were no retraining programs.
mm,
I'm a big small government person, but I mean, those people didn't have a job, and 30 years later, they still don't have jobs. And guess where the highest heroin addiction was during that time? It was up in that area,
yeah,
like, and super high unemployment in places like Toledo, as an example, and even parts of Akron as an example. So what will any of this replacement do if the robots are doing a lot of this stuff? And I know there's a lot of new jobs that are going to be created.
yes,
We have seen that in technology time and time again, but I don't know if we fully thought through the people impact, and a guaranteed income. I forget what the acronym is for that. It's not about the money. It's about having a purpose
right.
in life. But I don't know where that came from, how we went from Einstein 1 in Marketing Cloud to Pat Moorhead's view on humanity. But we got here. Here we
Well,
are.
you should watch. I'll actually put it in the show notes. It's not there, but the YouTube video that came from World Economic Forum with Mark Benioff, because it really was interesting, and he did get into some of those more kind of esoteric conversations about AI that aren't just pure business, but there was some good business nuggets in there as well.
Awesome. 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 Awesome
So,
sauce. Hey, let's move to the next thing here. I have no idea what this is, which is why it's so surprising. By the way, you and Paul Smith Goodson should do something together. You always come up with the most creative things. I always know when it's Paul Smith Goodson's, because he's always creative in what he does. So, hot or not, Kyte Baby return to office.
Kyte Baby. Okay, so I'm jumping on a big bandwagon here. I'm kind of surprised you haven't heard about it, but it's all over like
My youngest is 21. You
well, yeah,
know,
this isn't it's not a baby thing. Although, you know what, probably be more likely to hear about it if you had a child who had a baby, or it's kind of in that,
okay.
that area. So
I thought
Kyte
it was a
Baby,
rapper at first. I just want to let you know.
you
Okay.
what?
I thought it was I thought it was a rapper,
Oh.
like Kyte Baby. Like it seemed to be like a cool name
Yes.
for a rapper or
A
something.
rapper. That's funny. No. So Kyte Baby is a baby sleepwear brand. And this is a total social media bandwagon here, but it's because there are so many little lessons to be learned here. But what happened is there was an adopted mom who was denied the option to work remotely when her newborn was in the NICU. She went on social media, on TikTok. She told what happened. The CEO of the company went on with a canned script response, got completely blasted. So now this cult following that Kyte Baby had has just completely turned against them. So I think this is really a story in one, return to office policies, parental leave policies, brand and reputation management. I mean, there's so much to this story other than it's just this whole overly hyped TikTok and Instagram story phenomenon. But I mean, it's been on the Today Show. It's like really turned into a big thing. It shows the power of kind of the individual on these social media platforms when they feel like they've been wronged and they can get their story out there. But the reality is that companies have to back up their return to office policies with both data and reasoning. This was just the CEO has to make a call on this. She said no. She said that her job function was required to be in the office, and there wasn't actually any thought put behind the fact that she had a newborn baby in the NICU,
Yeah.
and the fact that this is a baby sleepwear brand. So it's just as important to align your policies with your company values, not just be a decent human. So now, how does this Kyte Baby, the rapper, recover? I mean, you and I have both been through many crises with not necessarily our clients, but in past jobs, and brand management and reputation it's a hard thing to recover in a pre-social media world. Now people take to social media. Influencers can act like press. Press, anybody can have a platform, basically. So really, it's like it's time for them to figure out not just to hop on TikTok to make an apology, but actually create what your policy is and make that known. Shouldn't have made the mistake in the first place, but lesson learned to companies, right? Your leave policies for adoptive moms versus, or any parent, I shouldn't even say moms, it should be parents, need to be established. But now they have to, with social media, now they've got to be, kind of taking this whole sentiment analysis across all of these different channels. And so that's where things like HubSpot come in. You got to like now creep over. It's no longer where you've got a social media manager who combs through Twitter or X and finds the angry customers. So there are now massive tools that will find brand sentiment and sentiment analysis online and help companies to repair their reputation. So they've got it in for them. So I'm going to say they are not hot, and they need some help with their reputation management. And companies need to pay attention.
No, I like that. And I always learn something when I do a podcast here on stuff that some of it's like, I would never run across that on my own. But I'm sure one of my kids And none of my kids have babies yet. But the RTO thing, I got you.
Yep.
Power to the people and what you can do. One of the challenges I always wonder about, if you air it out on social media and a prospective employer comes across it, are they going to be more likely to hire you if you fried the company,
Yeah.
or less likely? I'm old school. I'm old. I would say yes, less likely to hire if you have publicly eviscerated a prior employer.
I think there's definitely something that people have to keep in mind on things like that. Like, people are going to look at that. If you do that to somebody once, there's a pretty probably likelihood you're going to kind of air your dirty laundry out more than once, and not likely that same scenario is going to happen, but that type of person may be more likely to do something like that, and that could go against them. In this situation, I'm sure she's going to end up getting a job offer from a company that does it for the publicity, and she has gotten her job offered back to her, which she has declined. So I'm sure there's a lawsuit planned. But I mean, it's just a terrible thing for her to have to deal with that on top of her baby being in the NICU. But again, that's why companies need policies, and that's why people need to be really clear about where
Yeah.
and when they establish these return to office policies, and why. Look at the data and find the reasoning behind it, and make the decision based on that. But
Well, I feel like nobody is doing, forcing people to come in, everybody all the time.
right.
Is I never saw that as a possibility, and it's really not. And I think that getting people in person together for the right reasons, still, it's so funny. I mean, 2019, I still get back to my hypothesis, and which is different jobs, different situations, different life stage, and there will be. Remember, during the pandemic, everybody was saying we're never going back in, right? And then,
Yeah.
I basically said, no, we actually are. And here are the reasons, or here would be the type of technologies and cultural changes that we would have to have for that to work. And everybody kind of forgets that most salespeople and most customer service people and a lot of communications experts, they were already working remote for like 10 years, right?
Mhm.
But governments, as an example, never did any of this. But there's I stand by my early 2019 hypothesis. It played out exactly as I thought that it would. And this is not just me patting me on the back, but it was so crystal clear. To get there, we need better tools, and we might have to have a complete generational overhaul. I think there's about 10 years of digital transformation in the public sector that has to happen. Like, why do we even need a DMV other than for getting a driver test?
Mhm.
I mean, I don't understand. We can take a picture. We can even, there are remote fingerprint places if, and I did that for my CCL. So, you don't have to come in and do a lot of the stuff that we do.
Yeah, you're right. It is about the tools and the digital transformation, and I do think actually we'll see this year, this year for sure, and in the next couple of years, the tools shifting more towards the remote worker and less towards trying to draw people back into the office. I think last year we saw so much about like these tools that are making the workspace better, like the boardroom cameras and all of that. And a lot of people are saying, well, that's great, but what about the experience for the worker at home? And now you see companies like HP really concentrating on what's happening on the PC, Dell doing the same, what's happening for the worker at home. Let's maximize that device so that they're doing their best work at home as well as at the office.
Good stuff. Hey, let's go into what's next. What kind of travel? What's on your research uh,
Um,
right now? Your research list. What do
I'm
you?
going full on travel for a couple of weeks. I'll be with Zoho in McAllen, Texas, and I'm going to Bay Area for Ring Central, San Diego, my hometown, with 8x8. Some of the research that I'm working on right now, doing some HCM research, and also still digging in on some contact center stuff. It's really amazing what's happening in contact center. There's so much emphasis on that right now, and I don't want to drag this on longer than we're already 35 minutes. We'll talk about that later. Actually, I'll have a lot to talk about that after I go to Ring Central and 8x8, but working on some things there. How about you?
Well, it's good to be back and not travel, but I'm on the road next week in Seattle, meeting with some unnamed companies for advisory. And then the next week, I'm going to be in San Jose for an unnamed company for advisory. And then I'm going to meet you in McAllen for a day for Zoho Day 2024. And then I kind of take a little bit of a deep breath, and then I'm off to Spain for Mobile World Congress.
That'll be great. And then we've got Enterprise Connect.
I know. I'm not going, but you are, and I want to hear everything that you're doing there.
Yep.
I'm hoping that we'll see you there remote doing some 6.5 videos.
Yep.
All right. Great episode here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you have any feedback on it, you can hit us at social media. You know where to find us. I'm always on there. I respond. I'm addicted. I admit primary addiction is X, formerly known as Twitter, but I spent a lot of time on LinkedIn with B2B stuff. So thanks for tuning in and have a great day. Hit that subscribe button, share with your friends, family, dogs, whoever might be entertained and informed. Thanks. Take care.